Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Grant Cameron, and for those of you who live in the here and now, you're welcome too. Thank you for taking time from your valuable schedule to listen to me rant and rave. But we've got my partner, co-host here, and she's in the penthouse above Salt Lake City. You can see the background there. And she joins me today, Cindy Vole. And I'm joined by a longtime friend of mine. I was thinking earlier this morning, Candace, you may have been in this thing as long as I have. I mean, it's like, was Jesus a carpenter before when we started? I mean, it seems like a long time that when I go back, you're one of the people who has had a lot of stories that again you haven't really been very that public. So, but you were back in the days in Texas when there was a lot of stuff going on. There was the cattle mutilation investigations, and there was that what was that girl's name that you knew? She was famous abductee. Yeah, and ended up dying at 39.
Oh, wow.
She's a professor.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about Carla Turner.
Carla Turner, yeah, and she's famous.
Yeah.
If you go on the internet and search her, all of her videos of her lectures, because it's real sort of really dark stuff that
Yeah.
she's talking about, and her stuff is she's sort of become somewhat famous now in terms of her lectures that lived after she died. So you were around during that, and then the all the Boulder, Colorado stuff, and so I want to welcome you here today and. Introduction, we'll maybe skip a little bit of the introduction. You can sort of go a little bit what you want people to know, but you've had a background, as I always point out. You started off young, heading for Nashville, and then had some trauma in your life. And for people that want to tune out, don't tune out on this one because Candace has some very, very incredible stories of what's happened in her life. So, welcome, Candace, and let's get started. Tell me a little bit about where you came from and how you got into this world of the paranormal. And today we're also, I should mention, we're doing numerology. We're interviewing a numerologist later this afternoon, which we've invited you to come in if you want to come in through a near-death experience. And you're a numerologist. You've worked on that, I don't know how many years. So you've got a lot of interesting background that people should know about. And today is 9/9.
Yeah.
Yes.
999, because
999.
2025 is
Correct.
nine.
Yeah, yeah, that's
So
right.
it's three nines.
Yes.
There you
Yeah,
go.
very auspicious day,
So
actually.
what does that mean?
Well, nine is a number of universality. It's a number of unconditional love, and it's very much about about unity consciousness because it's the number of universality. But actually, it's an ending number. It's a cycle ending vibration. So human development happens in cycles of nine. And so if you use gestation as an example, gestation is a 9-month cycle of development. And if you start with the number one in the beginning, that would be equivalent to not gestation, conception. It would be equivalent to conception. And, because first represents new first beginning, right? And so these cycles are all interconnected. The nine then would be full term. We could call that full term in gestation, but because it represents ending, completion. And so all of the numbers between the conception and full term are interconnected because they're all about the baby. They're all about what was conceptualized in the beginning. And so we can see these cycles running their course dependent upon what was started in the beginning. Everything's going to be connected to that. And so this is how we can look at these cycles. And so the number nine being the number of completion and finalization is a very big number. It's one of the pivotal numbers in the course of human development because it is a finishing vibration. And so is the one and the five. The one is also pivotal because it starts the cycle, and we get the intention from what was the direction. We get the direction from the one, and then that sets the momentum. So if you look at the number one, it's a masculine vibration number having to do with force, penetration, and that's in order to get things going, right? It's a force of movement that perpetuates through the cycle, the intention of it. And so that's a pivotal number. And then 5, because it changes things up in the middle, so we don't stagnate and we continue through the cycle to completion in the 9. And so this particular 9-year, and we can look at that in conjunction to this 9-day as well, just giving us a dose of that energy, is that this particular year is a 9-year. So we have a 9-day today, but we're also in a 9-year, and we get that from adding the actual numbers of the year together. So 2025 adds up to 9. So we're in a 9-year, and this 9-year is completing the cycle that we started in 2017, which was the 1 year. Mm-hmm. So we're completing a 9-year cycle this year, but this year is super, super significant because it's also ending an 80-year cycle. So it's the 9th 9-year cycle in 80 years, right? So it's the 9th cycle of 9-year cycles since 1945. And if you look at 1945 as a beginning year, right? Very significant year for new beginnings. But gosh, I could go on and say a whole lot about that. I would like to say, though, that the 1945, what was really started was a huge cycle of secrets. 1945, we also started the United Nations. We bombed Japan, naturally. There's that in there. And the war ended. Right. So, but that ending was a beginning, especially for the United States, of an 80-year cycle of secrets. And why we can look at that in that way is because it happened during the 1 millennium. Right. So what I mean by that, so we've got all these cycles within cycles, right? So we've got a lot of big cycles. The 9-year cycle, or the 9th cycle of 9 of human development, is one thing. And then there's millennial cycles, or century cycles. There's a lot of cycles. So the millennial cycle, we've been in a 1 vibration, and just like all cycles, every cycle has its own vibration depending on where it lines up in the larger set of cycles, right? So the millennial cycle had a vibration of 1, this past millennium cycle. Because it started with the year 1000, but it was actually the 2nd millennium, but I'll get to that in a second. The 1st millennium having to do with our calendar time, right? This is where we are in the world in terms of counting time according to our calendar. So year 1 then, right, began the 1st millennium. And because it was the first, it had 1 energy. It was the momentum building cycle. So everything in that 1st millennium was building 1 energy because it was the first, right? And so it moved then to the year 1000. By the time we got to the year 1000, we were starting the 2nd millennium, but we'd spent 1,000 years building up 1 energy, and then we continued that 1 energy by starting the 1000 millennium, the millennium of 1000s, right? Which means that every date of every day of every year for 1,000 years was started with the number 1. Yeah. So energetically, when you look at things, this is how numerology works. It's all about energy. It's all about measuring energy on a quantitative level to some degree, but it's mostly about qualitative energy. It's archetypal, having to do with what that number represents on a quality level. So the 1 energy that we were in from the year 1000 was reinforced every day by just writing the number 1 in the date. And also because it still carried 1 energy from the first millennium, pretty big, powerful, one energy. So it wasn't until 2000 that we moved into two energy. And then we're no longer riding the number one. So that's another story in and of itself, very, very significant. But what's also significant is the fact that this 80-year cycle that we're concluding this year, right, was started in that one millennium. Yeah. So it was part of that old paradigm. So the two millennium is the new paradigm, and the one millennium is the old paradigm. And so one of the other things we can look at in terms of what one means is patriarchal, it's mental, it's having to do with individuality, me first, right? So it has everything to do with individual development, and it's self-serving, it's more self-serving. So obviously, we went through that because it was part of our path on the planetary levels of existence and in this plane, but it also has everything to do with developing the human being as an individual, working on higher levels to bring us to integration. Right. So it's like, there's balance in the universe. Balance is always happening. And so this 80-year cycle, where we started this cycle of secrecy because it was self-serving. And I mean, that's why we made them secret, because generally human beings, we're spiritual, we're energetic, and we're not, it's not, there's no separation. There's only the illusion of separation, as you know. And so this means that underneath it all, where we have some awareness of this unity consciousness, of being interconnected, of being, together. As one. So I like to say that we're not in a simulation, we are the simulation, but that's more down the road. But this energy that we are moving through now is breaking away from this separatist mentality. It's moving away from this self-serving, and because we all know on some level, just like we have governments that are supposed to serve all the people, right? It's that's a little bit of a metaphor, but we can use that to show how this is part of our nature. We want everything to be included. We're inclusive, at the core. And so the self-serving aspect of us had to keep that part secret because it wasn't going to be widely accepted. Only these people are able to do this or that, and so that's spilling over into everything. I think it's spilling over into the UFO community, and and it's very interesting too to me that not only did what's his name get into office in 2017, but that also was the year that the Eliza Kane article came out in the New York Times with the information about the videos. So that started the cycle, right? So they're kind of running together, as well as AI. You can track that too. What happened in that year regarding the advance of AI. So this is all together. This is all part of a bigger picture, as far as I can see it, that is moving us forward here. Yep. And so it's not, and please, if I'm just going on too much, just stop me, interrupt me anytime. But I tend to get into a stream of consciousness when I start this stuff. So anyway, so this 80-year cycle is actually concluding what we started in 1945, having to do with the secrecy, having to do with me first, having to do with self-serving and all of that. This is not sustainable.
Yeah.
Right. It's not sustainable. So everything is moving according to the consciousness of the planet, the consciousness of the universe. It's all connected. And so this timing now, if we look at timing, the timing of the second millennium sort of interrupted that cycle. They kind of didn't plan for that. That in comes this feminine energy, because this is what two is, right? So two is feminine energy, but metaphorically we can look at it like cooperation, consideration, emotion, community, partnership, marriage, integration. This is what two represents. And so we're moving from that one energy, or we have moved, I should say. It's already done. It's just everything's about awareness. This illusion of separation is just that. In fact, I think the craziness of the world, what the Buddhists would call insanity, stems from the fact that we all have abandonment issues from birth. Because we had the illusion of separation the instant we came into a body. This was a shock to the system on some level. And so a lot of people are very freaked out about that, about being in a body on the planet, because they can't connect with what they know. And so this is the illusion of separation that has caused a lot of suffering in the world. And this integration, this time of integration that we're in now, which is starting to unfold. And yes, it's the third millennium, which means 3 is the child in numerology. So this is a new human. This is the new being. And this is what we're now developing in this third millennium with 2 energy. So the 2 energy, the feminine energy, is helping to birth, right, this new human. And so I think I'll stop there.
Cindy's got a lot
stop myself. Yeah.
Cindy's got a lot of number questions. So go ahead, Cindy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Candace, I grew up listening to my mother talk about the 9, and she said, I don't know if it's why I'm assuming this must be Chinese philosophy. She said there's the obvious 9, and then there's the hidden 9. The obvious 9s are 9, 19, 29, 39, 49, 59, 69, so on and so forth. The hidden 9s are 19, 27, 36, 54, 45, 63, for example. So
I see what you're saying.
yeah, so she always equate those numbers to people exiting. So for example, if you, Princess Diana, 36, she was 36 years old. Lisa Presley, 54. Luke, was it Luke Perry from Friends? Matthew Perry, 54. Janis Joplin, 27.
Well, there's a 27 club. There's a 27 club because there's a whole ton of musicians that died at the age of 27.
27. And
Yeah.
Amy Winehouse, is that her last name? The British Winehouse. Yeah. Wasn't she 27 too?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's
then
the 27 club.
right. And then you look at Kobe Bryant and his daughter. Kobe was 41 and she's 13. So that's 5 and 4. That's a 9. There's no accident. So that exit was planned. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I think Grant has talked about this quite a bit in terms of having a chosen path before we come down here. That we and I also feel that this comes back to the we are the simulation rather than being in one too, is that we are co-creating in the universe as part of this path to integration. I mean, we choose a path before incarnating, and then also the whole the whole planet is having a collective consciousness that's contributing to each individual path that's happening. And so as far as the nine goes, this is the universality. You know, the number nine is a very
Powerful.
mystical, very mystical. Yeah. If you look at there's, I mean, on a planetary scale, just in the math, you know, there's all the different in the pyramids and, you know, and in the way that things are orchestrated in the planets and so forth. All of this, a lot of it adds up to nine. You know,
Right.
you look up to all of those, and then when you were talking about the hidden nine versus the not hidden
Obvious
nine, so the
nine.
yeah, so the hidden nine having a nine attached to other numbers. Well, one interesting thing about nine is that one of the reasons it's universal is because if you add one to two to three to four to five, all the way up to nine, it adds to either, I can't remember, 72 or 45, but it's nine. So this just means that the nine contains within it all of the other numbers. So that's a completion in itself, right? So the obvious nine would be, yeah, 45, 34, 36, and so forth. And the hidden is just meaning that it's bringing out the inner number. If you attach any number to nine, it becomes itself again. So in other words, 13, or sorry, if you add nine to four, that's 13, and then one and three is four, right? So every number that you add to nine comes out itself again. And so that's the thing that's hidden, right? It's the fact that that the nine is in all numbers. The nine can be found, you know, as a universal vibration because it lends itself to so many. The multiplication, the subtraction, all of it. It gets really really interesting how that works. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, so anyways, that's what I grew up with, and it's just really ironic when you hear some celebrities departure and they report their age. More often than not, it's on
Yeah.
the nine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me ask you a big question. You know this idea about change and the we're moving into a new age, whatever. So of course we have the present head of your country. I want to ask about that sort of because a lot of people will say that that's necessary, that that's what we need in order to see the dead bodies and all this sort of stuff, dig it up and see it in a new light. But the other one related to that is Chris Bledsoe, who has talked about 2026. You have all these other people talking about 2027. I just want to get your opinion on those two, all those predictions of people talking about some sort of contact event and go there for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I have always seen the beginning of this cycle when he came into office as a wake-up call. And in fact, I write a paper every year for every year, a universal year paper where I just talk about, you know, what the numbers are saying about the year coming up. And I wrote a special paper for the whole cycle, the 2017 through 2025 cycle, because I found it to be extraordinary, of course. And what I said at the end of that paper is, hold on to your hats, it's going to be a wild ride. You know, right? Yes, so I do see that in order for us to because humans get complacent. We're creatures of habit, and it's very easy to become complacent. We
Yep.
move into these routines, you know, so easily, and we get attached to them, and so we don't want to move out of them. And so we have to have usually some shakeup. Something has to, you know. And so nine, being that this whole cycle has a nine vibration, not just this year, but the whole cycle, because it's the ninth, right? Cycle of 9-year cycles. This was clear timing information about things ending, about things coming to conclusion, about things wrapping up. So nine also rules revolution, and some equate it with Mars, with the planet of war, because it can bring conflict. Although nine is generally peaceful, but on the dark side, or on the shadow side of it, there is that as well in terms of falling apart, which is
Yeah.
what's happening, right? This is what's going on in the country, and this has to fall apart because it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
And so once we get through this year, then 2026 will start a brand new cycle. It'll start a brand new 9-year cycle. It'll be a 1 year, starting a brand new 9-year cycle, but it also will begin a new 80-year cycle, right? It'll start that whole process all over again. So we're talking very, very different from where we've been, because everything we've been doing since 1945 has been somehow tied to what was started then. Yeah. And so the secret to me, that so far as what I can ascertain from the information, is world dominance was in the picture, right? So we made a big demonstration with the bombs. This is and the statement that Truman made was, no more Hitlers. We're not going to do that anymore. This is the end of that,
Yeah.
and we're going to have assured, ending to this war through, doing the bombs. But it also then created this momentum for following a plan of world domination. At least this is in the smaller mind. This is not in the bigger picture. It had its place in the bigger picture for what we were doing and moving toward. But it definitely, yeah. So and you can even see in 2001 what happened there, having to do with 9/11, right?
Yeah.
So soon as it's because there's huge resistance when you think about moving out of something that you've been in for a millennium. That's not an easy shift, right? That's
Right.
not something easy to do. And so moving out of the one was, and especially with this world domination plan, there were those that could see that, this new millennium, there's change, there's a shift, there's something else happening here, which too is about community, too is about sharing and connecting and integration and all of that. So the one doesn't like that at all. So the one wants to stay independent, wants to stay dominant and in charge. And so I always looked at 2001 as a reaction to turning over into 2000, which was, of course, going on before that. But we didn't have a full 9-year cycle after the millennium until 2008. And we can talk about what started in 2008, which is interesting too. But the last cycle of the one millennium started in 1999, which was a 1 year, right? So 1999 was still the old paradigm one energy. And so that cycle included 2001, right? And that cycle went from 1999 to the year 2007. And then 2008, we began the first full 9-year cycle of the new millennium. So we didn't really get going in the two, right, until 2008. And when you look at, I don't want to be partisan here, but it wouldn't have mattered if it had been a Republican. I don't suppose, if he had the same level of magnetism, the same level of, messaging that Barack Obama had. which was, of course, hope and change.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yes, we can, and all of that. And when you look at the reception to him worldwide, I mean, it was enormous.
Hmm.
So anyway, uh, lots to say about all of that. But anyway, what's your question?
And the second one is about the predictions,
Oh,
2026, 27.
yeah. So 2026, 2026, I see this as a clean slate. I see this as a new beginning. And
Hmm.
yet there are some things holding on. There are some things that will have to be worked through. Right now, there's a huge discussion about AI safety. Right? So we're one of the things that's been hidden, and they keep distracting us with all kinds of things, even with the UFO stuff, about AI achieving super intelligence, right?
Hmm.
And so there's been a lot of talk. There's been a lot of um, uh, stuff around AI safety that has been coming out for years, and there's a big, huge fear that within 2 years, this is what's been predicted, that within 2 years we will have reached capacity for super intelligence in AI, and that 30 million jobs or 300 million jobs, whatever it was they said, will be automated and wiped out. So this is huge. I mean, this is as big as ET.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, they're all together. See, it's all working to the same thing, which is a big change in the consciousness of humanity. This is the message. This is what we're doing. We're shifting from an I paradigm to a we paradigm,
Yeah.
for sure. But even beyond that, it's more about, once we are integrated, then we can deal with the problems that have been coming with this AI without responsibility, right? So that's what's been happening. Is there's a number of people there's this huge race on to see who can get the AI to super intelligence the fastest, because they're going to rule the world. Right? So it's still all about that. That's what they think. They think that, but in reality, there's bigger forces at work, from what I can tell, and these forces are moving us into an integration in which we achieve a level of super intelligence through interconnectedness, through awareness of interconnectedness. But this, people need to. I mean, this can be delayed. This can be, it's going to happen, but when and how is a little bit tricky,
Hmm.
right? Because scope, speed, and scale, those are three things that enter the picture. The path doesn't change, but the scope, speed, and scale of it can, depending on human, what we're creating.
Yeah.
And so everything in my life, everything um, uh, that has happened to me in my experience has led me to this, uh, because of the message about us being energetic beings, about us being interconnected energy.
Hmm.
And yeah, so 2026 will start a new cycle in which the more awareness that comes, and I'm thinking that's because the planet is, happening that way. It's going to automatically start to come in for us, and there will be those people who will be very, very frightened by it. And so be a lot of exiting. There's been a lot of exiting already. A lot of people are exiting this year, and that's because they're not quite ready for this level. So it's going to take a really big adjustment. It's going to be a huge adjustment for people, and so this next year will be very deterministic in how this goes, depending on the people that are helping other people adjust to this new. And it's not to say that we should accept that AI is here. That's for sure. That's not. It's not going anywhere. We are there. And but how we deal with that, how we are with that, how we help others deal with it, that's the question. So that's the big opportunity, because we have to set the intention ourselves. I tell people this all the time in my readings, is that the 1 year is not automatically a new beginning for you. I mean, it's an opportunity is what it is. You have to make the decision. You have to choose the direction you want to go, but you will be prompted. There will be things come into your sphere of experience. There will be things that automatically happen, and say, "Come on, you want to do this? You want to do that?" And then you need to make those decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And then 2027 will be the 2 year in this cycle. And so this is going to be a big coming together. This is going to be a big uniting of people. This is going to be a big, gathering of materials, gathering of information. It's developmental. So it's just like 2 is feminine, it's womb-like, right? So this is going to be a very developmental year based on what we're starting in the 1 year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
2026. Yeah.
So what you're saying is, in 2016, Donald Trump was meant to be coming in to discover all the dead body. But with his behavior, he's also creating really bad karma for himself.
Yeah. So and what's interesting about that too, if you look at 2016, it was a 9 year.
Yeah,
Right.
9.
So
Right.
so he came in a 9 year,
Right.
which is an ending year. So he was doomed to begin with.
Right. And he's 45. POTUS 45 on
Yeah.
top of that.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
45.
Yeah. So yeah, this was scripted, I'm sure, on some level. It was scripted for this to happen. And in terms of showing where the dead bodies are, that wasn't his intention.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. But because he was a catalyst for the disruption that happened, the disruption is unearthing all of that sort of on its own. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually, as much as I don't like him, he is actually where he's meant to be the catalyst.
Yeah. It was a way to shake us out of our complacency, a way to show us what needed to change.
Yes.
And not that he's going to change it. He's not changing anything. He's going along his path of destruction, which is his own thing. So,
right.
And he's trying. I see him as a puppet at this point of the larger forces that are, working through him, that are trying to get their agenda, happening through him. So that's and then when they're done with that, he'll go. That'll be it.
What about the ET connection? You hear all this stuff about landings, and it's almost like Bashar said, would you land if everybody was crazy and had a gun? Like it doesn't make sense. So what do you when you hear these predictions about an awakening or a landing or open contact? What do you think?
Yeah, I cannot predict that 100%, not at all. I do think that the 2 year, 2027 being a 2 year, that is a time of connection, that is a time of integration. And certainly in this new paradigm where we are moving in our consciousness to a higher awareness, higher consciousness, that is a likely scenario for sure. But what I also think is that the physical manifestation of ET in terms of craft and bodies and all of that is really a manifestation of the phenomena that is at work in us and through us. I feel like we are creating a lot of that. I mean, if you think about how everything gets created, it starts with mind. It starts with thought. You know, thoughts are things. We used to say that all the time.
Yeah.
Everything is everything was another thing we used to say.
Yeah.
You know, and we are creative in, and this is just from my own experience. Okay, I don't know. I can't, you know, I can't say this as, I mean, I do know, but I know for me, so I want to say it that way. Uh, we are manifesting according to our own uh, energetic path of creation for ourselves, which is then connected to the collective consciousness. So it's manifesting outwardly. You know, I used to think, I mean, I was a cloud buster as a kid. Easy peasy, no problem, you know. And I just thought that was normal. I just thought, you know, everybody could do that.
I mean, making clouds disappear?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I saw someone do that. I was floored. Someone showed me that. That's like,
Yeah, you know, that's just normal. To me, that's normal. That's just a normal, yeah, that's who we are. That's what we're about. But I saw many things. I had many experiences like that that showed me that how we think, how we feel, how we are, you know, in our awareness and all of that comes through our physical reality. It manifests in our physical reality. We are that. We're in the fabric of the universe that's operating here as the phenomenon. We are not being subject to, because that suggests separation, right? So either you believe in oneness, you know, or you don't.
Yeah.
You know, because if you say this is happening to me, or them over there, I mean, but I believe in oneness. No, you know, you have to be able to
Embrace it all.
yeah, you have to be able to stay with that belief, if that's your belief, if that's what you feel, that's what you know, that there is oneness. Then you have to include it all. You have to say, you know, we're a part of all of it. It's all happening through us because of us. And I used to have a firm understanding that when there was big turmoil in the world, that the weather reflected that was, you know, the weather was a direct reflection of what was going on with humanity. I think that now.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
that
know,
makes sense.
yeah, everything that's happening is you know, connected to what's going on with us.
yeah.
Consciousness is reflective.
Yes, absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
And so what do you see your mission in terms of you firmly understand your mission, and can you maybe describe how it starts for you in terms of why you are different than anybody else, whether it was trauma or you chose it, or how do you see your life as it unfolded?
Yeah. So, Grant, one of the things that I have come to understand is that different is the new same.
Yeah, different is in
That's a term that I came up with in 2014 based on a dream I had.
Oh, wow.
And this is, to me, saying that the universe, unity consciousness, the source, these things are hard to talk about because they're so beyond us. You know, they're
Yeah,
so big.
that's right.
But the unity source consciousness diversifies. You know, and I mean, I'm not saying this. This is the Eastern teachings have been all about this. You know, this is we're not just a part of. We're holographic. You know, in a sense, we're holographic little pieces of the whole, right? And so the movement of energy is what existence here is about. It's moving the energy around according to different levels of density and, you know, vibration and frequency. So this was the thing that started coming into me immediately when I was young. I started getting that message throughout my life, starting when I was 11, because that's my biggest memory. When I was 11, I lived in Korea, and um, I had a fascination for karate. Yeah, I had a fascination for a
Well,
lot of things. I was very
well, here comes a
active.
good story. This one, you pay attention to this one, Cindy. There's good stories coming up here.
Okay.
Okay, so I used to sneak into. I lived on a army base, and I used to sneak into the gymnasium where the GIs were training for karate, Korean karate, and there was a Korean Korean karate master that had been hired to instruct these guys. And so I used to hide in there because I just thought it was the coolest thing. And then I got caught. I got caught in there, and they wanted to know why I was there. And I told them, and he said, "Oh, okay. Well, would you like to learn?" I said, "Yeah, very much." And so they did this weird test, and I passed the test, and then I was able to take part in this training with these GIs, which was really strange. I mean, they had to get
Yeah.
permission from my and all that, but yeah, so I started doing karate when I was 11 with a bunch of GIs, and and at one point, the instructor said, "Okay, and we'd been doing this for several months, learning all the moves, doing all the stuff, and then at one point he said, "Oh wait, I should back up. Uh, say this first. So one of the things he would do would be to demonstrate things to us. And so one of the demonstrations he did was to pick up a white hot coal from a bucket of coals and hold it in his hand like that, like burning fire, coal. And then he would open his hand and drop and brush the dust off it, and it'd be nothing there, no burn, no nothing. And you're like, how is that
Pass.
possible? That you know. And then another time he put his foot and see the fact that I can personally witness these things is what's the point. You know what I mean? This is part of how we learn from our experience and like that. That's very important. And so he put his foot on a board and he took a nail and put it on the top of his foot and he drove the nail through his foot with his hand. Don't ask me.
Oh,
And it went through his foot into the board underneath.
wow.
And then there was no blood, there was no nothing like that. And it was all really fast. He did it very quickly. And then he pulled that nail out, and there was nothing, it was a little line, we all look look at his foot, and there was just a little line there, and so things like that. And then he also one time from a running jump, and he was like, I don't know if he was even 5 feet tall. He was short. And so he went running down the gymnasium floor, and then he jumped up into the air when he got close to where the basket was, jumped up and did a sort of twist his body, and he hit the rim of the basket with his foot. Yeah. And you could see it, see it move. So did he fly? What did he do? How did he do that? So these things have a way of impacting you about the nature of reality.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to really grapple with all of that. I had to really, like, what's going on? And so to finish that story, he then also did something like a mind control. I don't know exactly if that's what it was, but he told us we were going to break bricks, and I had a lot of doubt and worry and concern about that. And so he said, don't worry, you'll do it. And so the next night, we only had one night to practice breaking bricks. This was, really alarming. And so the next day when we did and we were doing this exhibition for the whole base. And so it was a big like pressure, you know. And then I got into position and he held on to my hand. And I think myself that he cut off my circulation as a way of sending a message to me that I wasn't going to feel anything, right? I think that's the only reason he did that. And the whole time before I went up there, I'm pulling on his gi like, Mr. Koo, how am I going to do this? And he totally ignored me, you know. And so then when I'm in position, he's holding my hand. And of course, always with a movement, there's a yell to execute the movement. So I'm in position over the brick. He yells, my hand comes down, goes right through the brick and hits the floor. That's how hard I came down through the brick. And right. And to me, it was like something had taken me over. It was kind of like that. It was like I didn't do that, you know. Something did that through me. So these kind of things, you know, these kind of things. So to have that kind of experience at the age of 11 created in me a feeling that reality was not, that we weren't in Kansas. Reality was not what it seemed, that there was something else going on, right? There was something else happening. But within, you know, I moved around in the military with my family quite a bit. So by the time I was 14 and living in the United States, you know, I was still wowed by things, of course. And so when I was 14, I had an experience where this light came into my room. I lived in the maid's quarters. This is what they were just called, the maid's quarters. We didn't have maid, but there was a maid's quarters in these housing in this housing, military housing. So and it was separated from the house. It was part of the whole building, and you didn't have to go outside, but you went down a stairwell. So I was in my bed, and there were dormer windows, and this was, you know, kind of like an attic apartment, a room, and there were dormer windows where there was a slant like this, you know, in the wall, and then the dormer window was behind that, right? So my bed was back over here. And so I woke up in the middle of the night because I heard this sound. It was a buzzing sound, kind of like a bunch of bees. And you know, it was a strange kind of buzzing. And then there was a mirror on the wall over here. And so this light is coming in from the dormer window with this buzzing sound. And it's weird because it's coming in like that and it hits the mirror and then goes back out. And then it comes back in and it goes back out like that. And I'm like, what the heck, you know, is that? And so that was, you know, I mean, part of me had already been prepared at 11 to be like, okay, something strange, something different. It's okay. But it scared me to death. I mean, I you know, I made a run for it. And, you know, and so that those kinds of experiences, and I always thought, and so the next day, I should just say, the next day, I tried to find out if there'd been a storm or something like that, or maybe there was an electrical wire that had been shaken loose, or, you know, something like that. No, nothing. There was nothing. There was absolutely no reason why that sound and light should have been coming through there like that. And so, so it's just that's what I mean by being prepared to look at these things as something other, something outside, and yet somehow connected.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and yeah, so yeah, not sure where to go from here. Just to say that energetically, feeling like the message for me was about the fact that we are energetic beings and that we're moving energy through our lifetime, as a way of understanding. So of course I was musically inclined and I became a musician. So music is vibration through sounds, frequency through sound.
Yeah.
And then I became a numerologist. And numerology is also about frequency. It's about vibration
Yeah.
according to, qualitative energy of numbers. And then I also was part of a Rife research group that studied frequency healing, right? How to heal with frequency. And so these things were all, I'm like, this is why I'm attracted to these things. This is why I'm moving through these things, because it is having everything to do with liberation through awareness of the fact that we are energetic, and that my mission, if you want to call it that, was to understand these things myself, and in living that, contribute to the collective consciousness. That somehow um, through experiencing these things, because I do believe that everything each person experiences contributes to the whole.
Yeah.
We're all part of this soup. We're all contributing to all of it, for each of us, which is why it's so important to get this understanding of interconnectedness and oneness, because once we have that, there'll be no reason to um, you know do harm to anybody else, because it'd be just the same as doing harm to yourself.
To yourself, right? Right.
Yeah.
I want you to, in your own words, to explain the holographic nature of the universe.
Oh, geez. It's- yeah, okay. Just, give us the meaning of life right here. Yeah, so I don't know how to answer that, Cindy. I just know that there well, if you look at the interconnectedness between science and religion, for instance, there's always been a separation of those, and those are starting to come together. Why? Because now we can start to see the science of consciousness. We're starting to get into those things more. If you look at Donald Hoffman or Federico Fagin, and even Penrose, and then people like this. They're all describing this way better than I could ever describe it. But they're talking about the fact that there is no reality in terms of the atom existing, that it just boils down to nothing, 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 that there's a void out of which comes something. And so, if there is oneness, then of course, every one of us that is expressing that oneness is doing that in an individual way based on our own frequencies.
Yeah.
And yet it's the same thing. That's what I mean by different is the new same, because it's the same thing. It's just looks different from this angle or that angle according to the frequency that it is. I don't know how else to say that.
Well, I had asked Grant the same question back in August when I met up with him, because Linda Moulton Howe famously said, the universe is holographic in nature. Who is the progenitor? So when I asked Grant, and I really liked his answer, he said, we are.
Yeah.
And that makes sense to me,
Yeah.
because we're co-creating with source, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because we are it, right? We are it. So how could we do otherwise? There's nothing else to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it just goes back to truly how powerful we are, how magnificent and powerful. But we live on a planet where it's governed by fear and control to really dumb down the population to keep people asleep through drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, sports, entertainment, money, the cycles of, oh, you get up, go to work, make a living, right? It's this perpetual cycle of just keeping you in the loop of sleepiness, right?
Well, and in the way you describe it, you can also say that that's all self-serving, and that's been the one. The timing of that has been to develop the individual so that we can get that message. We can understand that, oh, once we develop that as far as we can, we have as uh, um, much fun at the expense of others, or or we amass as much stuff as we possibly can. We finally get to the point where, you know, this is not, although there are some that are really hanging on to it, and they even think that they can manipulate the body so that it lives forever, and they can become immortal, and they can become cyborgs and all of that, because they want to hold on to the power. They want to hold on to that individuality. And not to say that we won't achieve that at some point, but it'll be very different in terms of agenda, in terms of reason, in terms of what we're doing with that. Very, very different. It's not any longer going to be simply self-serving, because it's non-sustainable. It's not it's just an illusion. And so, it's time has come to start going in a different direction. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah, that's why I say it's a time for you women to get up and take over the world before it all evaporates. It's like
Yeah, so then,
that's the
Well,
change.
there's feminine energy in men too. See, that's the thing that men don't get.
Yeah.
A lot of men don't. I know you get it, but a lot of men don't understand that this is not about women taking over the world. This is about opening to the integration. If you look at even men and women, those are metaphors for uh, individual and collective. Those are metaphors for mental and emotional. And you could go right down the line in terms of opposites, how that is represented. But really, the two is about integration. It's not about the elimination of the one. It's about integrating. It's about coming together with that part of us, because that's been the insanity, is we've been trying to live just as one-sided. We've been living one-sidedly. And not including this other part of us that is very crucial to survival, very crucial to existence itself on the planet and the planet. I mean, planet will go on, and we could destroy ourselves. That could certainly happen. But if this integration and awareness, and again, we're already integrated. It's just awareness. We have to do everything we can to come into awareness of this.
Now you start your career to go into the music industry, and you have a very serious accident, and you've seen I've written about the fact that trauma is part of the awakening. So did you at that point, did things change for you after the accident in terms of the way you saw the world, and how do you get into the UFO world?
Yeah. So so the accident, my first accident, I've had a number of those. The first one that I had, the trauma was more to what happened to the person I was with than to myself, really. I mean, I did go through the windshield, and woke up 3 days later. That did happen, but really it was the lesson around this woman that I was in the car with me, who was they said she was going to be paralyzed, and because it broke her back in 3 places, and of course I was driving, and I was 17 at the time. So in the hospital, she the doctors, it was like this big operation, and they said, well, we don't know, if she'll ever walk again. Kind of think no, but every day I would go in to visit her, and she would say, I'm gonna move my toe today, I'm gonna move my toe today. And I was like, oh yeah, you do it, but part of me was like, I don't know, but she never wavered. She was like so sure. And then sure enough, one day in a few weeks, she moved her toe. And then she did walk. She walks with a cane, but she did walk. So, for me, there was a huge lesson there, right? So that was about faith. That was about manifesting. That was about creation. So everything that happens to you, has a message in it. Everything that happens, and so yeah, so that's how that changed me. you
Yeah.
know, I that contributed to my pool of information about who we are and what we're capable of. And how I got into UFOs, I didn't really. I mean, I had those experiences, um, you know, and I had many experiences, and that you could call those UFO
But you
experiences.
do have
Some
the one where you end up as Bud Hopkins
Oh yeah, yeah,
client.
yeah.
I mean,
Well, I had a
that's not
rabbit
many people get that
experience.
position.
Yeah, yeah. I had a rabbit experience. So yeah, as a young person, um, you know, yeah. So Grant, I have a lot of stories, as you know, and so pick one, and I'll talk about that. If you want to talk about the rabbit story, I can talk about that, or they can talk about the being in my room, or
Yeah,
uh,
the
so,
rabbit,
so
just that, because that's where you suddenly, like your boyfriend, I think, tells you it's time for you to go get regressed, where everybody else
yes.
sees it, but you don't really pick up that's what's going on yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 that's right. I had all these experiences. I had many paranormal experiences before I met him. And but I just, like I said, wrote those off to, oh, okay, that's part of this whole mystery thing that goes on, that we are.
Yeah.
And I didn't connect it with UFOs or anything until, yeah, I met him. And then I got involved with the local MUFON chapter, and boy, there was, wow. And it was a real eye opener to connect with Bud Hopkins, and have that experience, that regression experience, for two reasons. One was that, during the regression, all of a sudden this scene comes out where I'm being taken on board this ship and everything, right? And by what looked like men, actually. Uh, they were dressed in these one piece, look like flight overalls,
Wow.
like military wear, and they weren't skinny guys or anything like that. They were, pretty kind of substantial, and they just pulled me out of my car. I got out willingly, didn't argue, nothing. And then they took me on this ship, and I had that examination experience and all of that. Um, and then uh, so that was a real kind of shock to me. I just had this little rabbit story. It was a weird story, right? It was definitely a weird story, that my rabbit story, but highly unusual. But for that to come out of it, as what really went on, was a big shock. And then he wanted me to come back the next day for another regression, for a second one. And he told me that first day, he said, "Oh, yeah, this is definitely, I had some controls in there and you passed all of those. And,
Yeah.
and I have some people in New York I'm going to hook you up with and all this stuff." And I'm like, whoa. So I didn't sleep a wink. I was like, very disturbed by all of this. And I didn't quite believe it. I was just like, I don't know, what is going on here? Because I had, in the regression, I experienced it as an observer rather than a participant.
Yeah.
So I was looking at it sort of from a distance. And so when I went back the next day, when he answered the door, and I said, but I just don't think that he was all excited, and then all of a sudden he just was crestfallen. It was like, oh, she doesn't believe. So, so what are we going to do with that, right? And so it was just kind of, the second regression was nothing like the first at all. It was very odd.
Hmm.
And then he was, so this was all over a weekend. This was a Friday and a Saturday, and then Sunday he was doing a workshop, um, for people. And he asked me to come to the workshop and give a testimony about being regressed. And I said, "Oh, no, 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 I can't talk about any of this stuff." And yeah, well, he said, I just want you to say what it's like to be regressed. I said, "Okay, I guess I can do that." So that started this whole, I mean, oh my gosh. So many things. So that's how I got into it, really. That's really how I got into it. And the second thing that I learned from that was that how can I say this? I can't say this. Okay, that's actually how I got connected with Carla Turner, was through Bud Hawkins, through that thing, because on the day of the workshop, and I made him promise not to give any,
Yeah.
details about the regression. So one
Yep.
of the stories that I had told him also was a story about an experience I had with my son, in which it was a being in the room. I woke up, and there was this hooded being over my son, so that to me was such a personal thing that I did not, want that shared. Well, this is the first thing he did. He started talking, and he's just said that.
Yeah.
And it made me really upset that he shared that information. And he didn't go into too much detail, but he just said, this young woman, and she had this being with the hood, and I was like, oh my God. So I go to the bathroom, and when I'm in the bathroom, these two women come in, and they're like, we want to know if you were at the MUFON meeting when John Lear was speaking. And I said, yes, I was there. Oh, we want to talk to you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, so I don't know what this is about. So I come out, I speak to these women. One of them is Carla Turner, and the other one is Barbara Barthlick. Well, Barbara Barthlick was an assistant to Jacques Vallée for about 7 years. She worked with Jacques Vallée and investigating, researching, so forth. And so they tell me this story about this friend of Carla's son, who had seen me at now wait, was it her son, or was it a friend of her son's? Gosh, now I'm getting this mixed up. Okay, but anyway, either her son or her son's friend, had been having these very paranormal, frightening experiences with ETs, and claimed that in one of those experiences that he had seen me, where and this is in her book, Into the Fringe. So it's all in there. I won't go into a lot of detail, but the experience has to do with him seeing me on a hilltop, and telling him all kinds of things, and outside of St. Louis. Well, I was born in St. Louis, so that was the only thing that really connected for me. I didn't have any connection to what she was saying at all. But they wanted me to meet this young man and all of this stuff. So it was very bizarre. And then that's how I got involved with her. And then I started going to the Ozark Mountain
Conference, yeah.
Eureka Springs conferences. I started going to those, and I had bizarre experiences there as well. So I'm not sure I'm answering your question, Grant.
Well, let me ask you two questions, because I didn't realize that when you saw above that these were humans. You mentioned Carla Turner, who was sort of very negative about her experiences, believed this is the
Yes.
worst thing possible, and Bud's had a dim view of the world as well. I think
Yeah.
you sort of disappointed him with your take on the second interview,
Yeah.
where and so how did he take this fact that these were like human type beings? And of course, then the question would be to you, what do you think? is going on? Is this ET? Is it higher self? Is this a puppet show? Is this interdimensional beings? What do you take? Because I didn't realize it, because I would have always assumed that if Bud did the regression that you saw little grays, but you didn't.
No, I did. I saw them on the ship.
Oh, on the ship.
Yeah, but the guys that took me out of my car,
Okay.
those were they look like humans.
Okay.
Yeah, they look just like humans. So that's who took me out of the car. And then once I was on the ship, then I saw a grace.
Okay. And
So
what did Bud say about the your what interested him about your case? Was it did it fit into all the other scenarios of people that he was talking to?
Yeah,
Or yeah.
yeah,
And you
yeah.
talked about that the fact that you were looking for a tape that apparently you thought you had the second tape. Did you ever find it?
No, I haven't found it yet, but I'm going to keep looking because I would like to have that tape. That would be something. Yeah, and I don't even know if it's the tape from the first session or the second one. I don't even know that. I hope it's the first. Because the second one was weird, just weird.
He sort of just
Um,
cut you off, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
basically, yeah.
Yeah. That you
Mhm.
weren't.
Yeah, because I wasn't believing in the scenario that he was presenting.
yeah.
Yeah.
He had a whole sexual connotation to it that, I just it's
Yeah.
just like, I don't think so. It didn't resonate.
And so what do you think is going on? I mean, this is a big sort of end of the world question, but what if looking back on all the experiences you've had, do you see it as a spiritual thing or do you see it as an ET thing? Because to me, the more I look at it, the more it looks like it's going to be some sort of spiritual thing
Yeah,
rather than
I
ET.
agree.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. I mean, I had an experience um, with a being in my room that uh, it was definitely interdimensional. I know I was not hallucinating. I was sitting in a chair working on my numerology calendar. I was inventing a calendar and I was working on that. And 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 I got this feeling, and I looked up, and across the room is this being standing in the room with its back to me, and it had a white, like veil, two-piece kind of
Yeah,
dress with, and your first feeling, thought, whatever, is that's the Virgin Mary. You know,
yeah,
I don't remember actually even thinking that. I just felt the impression of
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
It's kind of hard to,
You sensed
and
it.
yeah, I sensed that, and then it turned around, slowly turned around, and when it turned around, it was this completely non-human being, really long neck, solid white skin, almond-shaped, big blue eyes that had this blue light coming out of them, and you know, so I so to me, the fact that, and then it just disappeared. There was no communication. There was nothing like that. It just baffled me for years. But the fact that the experience was such that this being started with the back to me and then turned, that to me was a kindness. I eventually came to feel that way about it. It was a kindness, to not shock me too much, to help me sort of ease into it by putting me in a more calm state, which I understand a lot of them can do that without things like that. But apparently this one did it this way, where, even though it was a shock to see that this was not a human, it was a kindness to do it that way. So it felt very spiritual. So it obviously was not trying to make me think that this was the Virgin Mary. It was just that it was helping me, ease into the fact of what it was. And so to me, that's, else can you look at that other than for it to be something benevolent, something, spiritual.
Mhm.
And I don't look at spiritual in terms of religion
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it completely separate. I almost feel like the beings that took you from your car, even though they look human, I almost feel like they shape shift.
Yeah, yeah, that's possible. It's quite possible. Anything's possible. I mean, I had a rabbit story that was
It's
apparently a
better than the
screen
rabbit.
memory. Yeah, it wasn't a rabbit. Um, yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, because I look at the way I look at it when I think of you is I've had some experiences, but mine are more like download experiences and synchronicities and things that led into books and stuff like that. And you have these bizarre events where I don't know how many beings you've had in your room and stuff like that, where you're actually sort of interacting with the phenomena. And that's why I always say you are the most important people, is you are the closest there is to the intelligence in terms of if you want to know what's going on with whatever it is, you got to deal with the intelligence. And you seem to have these interactions with beings. So I'm just wondering what's different between, is it just your mission is different than my mission?
No, not at all. I think it's a matter of frequency, which, probably we came in
Yeah.
at that level of frequency,
Yeah.
but it doesn't mean that you can't change. We're changing frequency all the time, you go through phases in your life where you're really ignorant over here, and then, all of a sudden you have, greater understanding and wisdom and awareness, and that's frequency shifts. That's all that is. And so the more that we open, I think, is the message. It doesn't. I think we all have the capacity and the potential. There are certain those of us who um, uh, maybe have these experiences in order to stimulate and inspire people. I don't think you should ever focus on the experience itself. It's always, what is that experience telling you? What is the message? And I don't mean a message like, oh, ETs are here. I mean the message that we are we are different than we think we are.
Mhm.
We're not the limited
Yeah.
beings
Yeah.
that we think. And that this is the real message. The real message is, we're part of all of this. We are the phenomena, and we're manifesting it in all these different kinds of ways. Some people have paranormal experiences, ET experiences, but they're all part of the same message about our consciousness. To me, that's the bottom line. That's the bottom line, is that we're uh, evolving in our awareness to this understanding that there's definitely a very, very intimate connection with this fabric of the universe, with this, we ourselves are multifaceted, multidimensional beings.
Yeah.
You talk about interdimensional beings. Are they interdimensional? They are us. I
Yeah.
mean, in the sense that we're connecting with that part of us in this way. It presents this picture. It looks like this being. To me, that's some part of my awareness manifesting as that to mirror that to me. Do you know what I'm saying? Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. You're the producer of the show. The guy
Yes.
often think that you start to wonder, you know, when you come into the world that you set up the play and stuff like that, and people want to, you either play the victim or you have responsibility and you move ahead and just take things as they are. Because you'll have these people who have the experiences out about experience and near-death experiences where they are told that everything is perfect, everything is exactly the way it's supposed to be. So you either have that attitude, or you have the attitude that the world's coming to an end, which the answer to that is if it's a reincarnation world, then you chose to be here at this time in this place in the middle of whatever mess you think you're in. And you have to take responsibility for that. But maybe you chose to be here at this time in this place in the middle of whatever mess you find yourself in to be.
Yeah. And that's hard for a lot of people
Sure.
because when people have negative or difficult or painful experiences, it's always it creates some anger in people to think that, oh, I created that. No, it's not exactly that you created that. It's that the circumstances around your development, right, around your understanding of life, there's something in those experiences that come your way which are not you. There is no you. This is a conglomeration of all of your experiences connected to the universal mind, universal consciousness that is contributing to each individual's experiences, right? And so if you looked at your soul, I mean, there's only one soul as well, also
Mhm.
manifesting as many. But if you look at the thread of the frequencies and the dimensions that you have existed on, um, I do think there's a thread, that runs through that. And so it's like there is no you in the sense that there's just one of those that you can take away from the rest, right? So all of those are contributing to your experiences this lifetime. Yeah. So it's not like a lot of people talk about karma and coming back to payback, things that you did in the past. No, I don't believe that at all. I think everything has to do with our evolution, with our coming to love, light, and life, understanding, respect for all life through love and light that we are. And that these experiences are designed, they come about as a result of different choices, different things that have happened, but not as a punishment or a reward. It's just about, okay, what do we do now? We have that. Now, how do we get from that to this? Well, we might have to have some traumatic experience. We might have to have some kind of experience, that points us in the right direction. But that's a creation of many, many factors, many lifetimes, many uh, lots of energy from lots of different points of existence, or it's hard to describe. But I think you get what I'm saying. That this is a conglomeration. It's not just me doing this or that.
Mhm.
And so you can't really blame any person for their
Yeah.
circumstances. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's way more complex than that.
Yeah. It's almost like I always look back at your last lifetime, that then you see everything as experience instead
Hmm.
of woe is me, because then it's
Yeah.
like, and you remember that this lifetime, when it's over, your next lifetime is going to be a forgotten dream. And so you see it on the bigger level. You see you're going through all these things in a learning process, that everybody's moving their way up, maybe some slower than others, and that we're all like we're interviewing this guy. We won't get into it, but what's he call it? The weave theory, that everything is woven together in a fabric, that we're all this sort of thing you can't separate. And all, so it's the same sort of idea. So I'm honored to have known you, because you're one of the most enlightened people that I've seen in terms of understanding what's actually going on in terms of the experience that it's maybe I can ask you another question, then I'll leave it to Cindy. But how do you see this thing moving? Like, you always hear these things like I just had met with a woman last weekend who came to me to find out how does she get her story out. She's never told her story. She's whatever, 55 years old or whatever, never told her story, came to tell me her story, and talks about this thing with she didn't want to see the beings because she'd be afraid. And so she said, I don't want to see you. And then they had a pen, and all I could see is this pen that was going across their field of vision. And they basically, you see this over and over again, where the question is, do they want you to tell a story? Yeah, yeah, I think they want me to tell a story. So how do we get the story out to people? Because you know that most people live lives of quiet desperation. They have no clue what's going on. And so what advice can you give to people in terms of, do you just do your own thing, and is it all okay, as people in the near death experience world say?
What I would say to that, Grant, is that you can get all the information that you can amass. You can take in a lot of different information. You can research until you learn from your experience. Experience is the best teacher. You're not going to get nearly as much. You're not going to get anything
Yeah.
actually from reading books or, not that we shouldn't read them. We should read them, but I'm saying that the purpose of reading them is not to just fill your head full of stuff. It's to inspire you to open yourself to your own experiences. Okay, well, what does that mean for me? How can, how do I explore that in myself? Because the tendency is to push things away. It's to take them in, and then they go in one ear and out the other. Okay, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? Right?
Yeah.
It's always just wanting to take in as much information as we can. Well, that's the information age. That's the past. The future is here, and it is connecting with yourself, connecting through your own experience. And part of what comes with that is compassion, having as much compassion for yourself and your experiences as you possibly can as part of your learning, part of your development, whatever it is. If it's trauma, if it's joy, and maybe you have a wonderful life, you never have any trauma at all. Great, that was a learning experience for you, and if you have trauma in your life, as you come to accept and have compassion for that, for yourself, this shifts your frequency, it shifts your energy, and then you're open to other experiences. So that's what I would say is just, the way to awareness is through experience. It's through allowing yourself to be stimulated by all this information that's coming in, but not to focus on the information itself in a separate way, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm being clear.
Yeah, I'm about to write a paper sort of on that, on the idea of belief. If you haven't had the experience, you can only believe. Only the people who have experience can know. And people will call it a knowing. I know. And I always said when I had my first experience, I said that was the hardest part to explain to people was the fact that I knew this was the answer. It wasn't an answer, it was the answer. So it's the difference between believing and what you get with science is they believe. So it's like there's 100 billion galaxies, and then suddenly there's 2 trillion galaxies. And then you say, well, how many is? Well, based upon our estimates, and they're just guessing. They keep guessing, guessing, guessing. And the thing
Yeah.
keeps changing. Whereas if you talk to a person who has an experience, they know. And that's why I'm always so interested in experiencers is to talk to the people who have been as close to it as possible and realize that these people aren't making it up, that they've had this knowing experience that something has come across the veil to help you, whether it's your higher self, whatever it is. And that's where the answers are gonna lie. Is if you can't have your own experience, then you have to sort of rely on these people who have been as close to the phenomena as you can get.
Yeah. And all experiences are important.
Yeah.
No matter what kind of experience you're having, they all have value.
Yeah.
They're all helping us to grow. They're all helping us to grow and develop. And everybody's an experiencer. Absolutely everybody. It's just a matter of paying attention. Paying attention.
Yeah. Cindy.
So
Yeah.
I want to touch up on what you talked about, the karma thing. This is how I understand it. I think I think on the surface, people think it's like a tennis match. You hit the ball. That's an action that's generated. And then the other player hits it back. So it's a back and forth. So you tend to think of karma as an eye for an eye. I think the universe is much more intelligent, and let me think what word I want to use. It's much more intelligent and full of compassion. So using Bernie Madoff as an example, he took millions from people, right? You would think, oh yeah, for sure. That's such a big debt imbalance, right? To heal and to rectify. It doesn't mean that he's going to come back as somebody who loses millions because he took millions. Here's another possibility that the universe was so understanding and so intelligent that perhaps comes back as somebody who just again becomes very, very wealthy, but instead of keeping the money, he is the person that's distributing, just giving, giving, giving. That in itself is balance. So it's I'm with you. It's not an eye for an eye. That's too simple. It's much more, it's precise, it's complicated, and it's intelligent, and it's meaningful. What karma is, because I think sometimes to people who are not, how do I say this? The first thing I want to say, not as spiritually evolved, that's not the right description. What I want to say is aware that it really is not, karma is balance. It's not negative. It's not good. It's not bad. It's healing in balance. It's both components. The best way to describe karma, healing and balance.
Yeah. Well, and we always, when people do what seems to be negative or bad things, we always want our pound of flesh. Well, are they going to be held accountable? Are they going to pay?
Yeah.
And so and then we might be surprised if they get off scot-free, or they escape somehow, any of that. But you don't know. Maybe they agreed to come down. Obviously, they did on some level, agreed to come down to serve in this capacity of negativity, in order to help awaken people. And so yeah, karma. You can take any experience from any position, from anywhere. There is no, the timing of things is that too. It's just there's not really any rhyme or reason. We can't come to any conclusion about that. It's just where do you decide, what do you want to, where are you in your path that you want to learn? Oh, this time I want to try that. This time I want to try that. I'm going to do all these different things in order to help myself grow. And one of those things might be having the experience of being a villain, or or something like that. But of course, we don't know what that does to the overall development. That's just a way to learn. It's just a way to, like you said, it could be that person comes back in a different form, to do something very different from what they did before because of what they learned.
Let me make a point on that. In terms of you and I, the understanding is that there's nobody doing anything to you. Like, it's not like God points his finger at you. If you look at the near-death experience, you're judging yourself, you're running the thing. So you'll volunteer to come back. When you understand the one, you know how to balance it out, and you come back. And when you get on the other side, all you have is this idea I always sort of bring out is that when you go into the light, it talks about the unconditional love and compassion. So if you're suddenly on the other side, and then it's like, okay, Candace, Friday night, you got to be the light. You got to work from the midnight shift on the light. Everybody's the light. There is no light. Everybody takes turns, and then your worst enemy comes to you. How do you treat that person? It comes into the light, and that's the whole thing. You got to look at it from that perspective. That we are the ones who are our God. We are the ones that are choosing ourselves, and there's no reason to get off the karmic wheel, because if you're somebody who's uh, realizes that here we're into rape, pillage, kill, and steal. Whoever's got the most ties when they die wins. But when you get to higher levels, it's all altruistic. It's all about making the universe a bigger and better place. And so why would you not come back? Why would you not? Why would you want to sit on a beach where you could go back and try to make the world a better place? Because you're part of this thing, and that's what it's about, is making the universe more magnificent. So do you see that thing where there is no judgment person to us, that we are basically in charge of our own development?
Yeah, and again, I think the I is the thing. I mean, there's no like uh, individual.
Yeah.
It's all part of the grand, but there are frequencies that seem to have a thread that run through the different iterations of soul, right? That we could call a past, But who said? I think was it Gandhi? We are the ones we're waiting for.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the big thing is the waiting. We want to be so externally focused and looking at being victimized by all these things out here, having absolutely no feeling no connection to any of that. But even in the collective unconscious, that's running things, the collective consciousness that sees that as other is, the lesson that we're here to learn, that there is no other, it is us. And until we stop waiting and looking outwardly and start looking inwardly and working from an inner position of experience and learning from that experience, this is when things, shift. And I think, every person that does that certainly contributes. But there is, at this stage of the game, in terms of our own development, that's a very big party. It's a big, that's a big group. That's a big, you could say, it's oneness doing its thing at this particular time based on where the evolution of humanity is. And so we're all getting a little bit of that. We're all, tapping into it in our own ways. I mean, it's like, in 2004, my mother died, and I was in school at that time. I was in a writing class, and we were supposed to write a short story. And so, based on my experience of my mother passing, out comes this sort of sci-fi short story, and it so closely resembles Avatar. You'd be like shocked to read it. You'd be like, wow, that's Avatar. That's exactly Avatar. I mean, the color of the skin, the weird language, all of it. It's just, the Navi, not called that, of course, nothing, but, and then Avatar didn't come out for 4 years
Wow.
after that, right? So what is that saying? It's saying we're all tapped into so
Yeah.
all this information is floating around. It's all there for any of us. And the ones that are in the right frequency at the right time, right timing, right action, right use of will, that's all contributing to who gets this information and does something with it. I mean, I didn't do anything with it. This was the response to my grief, but somebody else did, right? So it's all just coming in.
Well, if you still had the paper, you could probably sue them and they'd probably give you some money.
And other people have done that. Other people have tried
Yeah.
because they probably got it too.
Yeah, that's
They were
right.
like, "Oh,
And
you
that,
stole it from me."
yeah, and
No,
that
we
is,
all got it from the same place.
yeah, I did a chapter in was it the inspiration book where I did all the inventions, and it was like the Bell telephone. He put the patent in the morning, and in the afternoon, a woman put the same patent in the afternoon. He beat her by a couple of hours, and that's the thing.
Yeah,
It goes to a certain point where everybody is, and suddenly everybody's got access to it, and some people do something with it, and some people don't.
yeah, and it's the timing again. It's a timing based on this whole bigger picture that we can't even see. We don't even know where that is or what. So there's still a big mystery about all of this in terms of how it goes and how it
Absolutely.
operates. But we are definitely connected to it. I don't have any doubt about that at all.
And we're lucky enough to realize that it's this magnificent universe, and we see the things that other people don't see in terms of, even the gratitude that you get to play this game where you realize all these things are possible and stuff. Whereas a lot of people are just in their little thing where they just keep going, and then someone tells them they're going to die, and that's it. It's like we got a good roll. I mean, it's like that we got to play. So, Cindy, have you got anything else? And I want to find out where do you have you written this stuff, some of this stuff down? Have you published, like you publish your numerology paper? Can you go through that kind of stuff?
Um, I'm sorry, what's the
Well,
question?
in contact, like in terms of you mentioned you do a numerology paper every
Yeah,
year. Do you put that out? Where is it available?
yeah.
And are you open to people contacting you? And do you publish anything else?
Yeah, no, I just write these papers and send them out on an email list, basically is how that works. Sometimes I might post one on YouTube or not on YouTube, on Facebook or something like that, but you can go to my website and see all of them. My website has all of those papers. Um,
So
and
what's the address of the website?
the website now is numerologybycandace.com. And Candace is spelled Candice.
Okay.
Numerology, it's all one line, numerologybycandace.com. And then I have another website that I'm using to help people, that's called Blue Lotus Transpersonal Therapy.com.
Wow.
And you can go there and get information as well.
And what are you
Um,
doing there? What is that about?
uh, this is kind of an extension of my numerology. I have education in transpersonal psychology, and and that was again part of my journey of tapping into
Yeah.
something else there. And I have a service. I have services that I offer. If people want to look at that and contact me about that, we can talk more about it.
And
Just
what's
helping
that one
people to
again? Blue Lotus?
actualize.
Give me that one again.
Blue Lotus Transpersonal
Okay.
Therapy.com.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And I am also in the process of finally writing a book about my experiences, but not again for the experiences themselves, but for what has come out of those experiences.
Wow.
So I'm working on that.
Wow. Because you're one of the wisest people I know, but you also got some of the most incredible stories. Even if you don't learn anything from them, you just go like, wow, did that actually happen? It's like, your father's death certificate
And
all
that's what
this.
you Yeah, that's what you're supposed to get is, wow, could that happen? See,
Yeah.
that's inspiring, right? So then you can open yourself. The more all of us talk about this stuff, which I'm learning from you, Grant, I've been secretive for so many years, and I have been learning this from you, definitely. But it's important, I think, to share this information for whatever it stimulates, in the collective consciousness,
Yeah.
for whatever that can do.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being on the journey. Any last questions, Cindy?
Um, at what age did your ET contact start?
Oh, it's a interesting question. I don't know. Because ET is like, I don't know what ET is. It's to me the phenomenon. So in terms of phenomena, being in contact with phenomena, my first experience with that probably really would be at 11 when I had that experience in Korea. Yeah, that to me was contact with the numinous. That to have personally witnessed what he did, um, you know, uh, was very consciousness changing for me. So I consider that contact with the phenomenon. And then at 14, that experience, I don't know what that was, but that certainly was something as well. Yeah, and just from there.
So, Graham, would you agree the contact is also not like nuts and bolts, meaning like Betty and Barney Hill, right? Being physically taken on board. That to me is like nuts and bolts. I'm sitting here starting to feel contact with non-human intelligence, and that encompasses not just ETs,
Yeah.
but non-human intelligence is all kinds. It's all kinds. It's not just nuts and bolts contact.
Yeah, well, the way I look at it, and I think Candace would probably see it the same way, is that it's like the example I use is my grandfather came to my father 2 days before he died. So the question is, okay, number one, why did he come as my, if he lived 1,000 lives, why did he come as my grandfather? And the reason is because he didn't come as my grandfather, my father wouldn't have known who the hell was in his bed, who's in the hospital room.
Right.
And so then people will think, well, it's nuts and bolts. Well, yeah, it was nuts and bolts. My father didn't say it was a ghost of my father. He said, my father was in the room today. And then he was asked, well, what did he say? He's just here. That's all you need to know. My father was a very stern type guy. And the question is, so did my grandfather put all those particles and come out of the grave and come together as a human? I think the phenomena understands what's going on. It realizes there is no physical world. It's all like vibration. And they can manifest into the physical world. They can come into the physical world and do whatever they want and appear as, and it is solid. They come in and then they go back. And you see that in terms of like these abduction cases. The first one was this Villas Boas of 1957. And when he was on board the craft, he said there was fluorescent lights inside the craft and there was square lights. And then you go, fluorescent lights inside of a UFO. And then you see 1967. I just heard this one where this Nebraska policeman was abducted, and Herbert Schumann, and he was a famous case too. And when he got abducted, he said they had reel to reel like tape recorders inside going on the side wall. And it's like they'll come in at your level, whatever your level of understanding is. If you're in 1896, you're going to come as wooden ships. They're going to come at whatever level you're at, but they can manifest in the physical the same as we in the world. We know how to manifest into the physical. People are coming into the physical, then going back into the spirit world, and the physical is just a different vibration, a slower vibration of the vibration. So you slow the vibration down, you go into the physical, then you speed up the vibration, you go back out of the physical again. They can do it, and that's what Yossi Ronan said. The beings told him, when we come into your world, we can take on a body, we can take on whatever body we want to do the work we're going to do. You can do the same thing. You just don't know it.
That's powerful.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add to that, Grant, is they is us. I
Yeah.
mean, when you talk about they can come in, you can also look at that as that was me coming in as my grandfather.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, really, if you get away from the whole separation idea, I mean, I know that gets a little tricky, for all of us, but that's kind of where it's going, I think.
Yeah, it is tricky. It's like Jim Semivan, if you listen to him, talks about it, indigestible. If you tell
Yeah.
people there's no time, there's no space, you're all within yourself, there's no out there. It's all one thing, you're God. And people go, okay, stop talking, stop
Yeah.
talking. Enough. I've heard enough.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and so you have to be in this field for a number of years, and it starts to sink in, and you go, yeah, so it's an interesting thing, but when the time is right, the time is right, and people will get what they need when they need to. And that was one of the most surprising thing I saw was in the near-death experience where I actually interviewed these people. The one was a woman who did QHHT, the other one was a guy in a float tank, and the third was the woman who got thrown off a motorcycle in LA face first into the concrete. And they all had these near-death experience. They all had these experiences where they were told everything is perfect. And I remember the guy that in the float tank was mad that I mentioned in a lecture. He said, I haven't even told my wife yet. He was so embarrassed at this idea that everything was perfect because it makes no sense. And that's that's why I think they talked about Jim Semivan said it's one of the reasons that they're not going to tell you because they don't know either. And this is just so far, so removed from anything anybody believes that it's just like insane if you try to explain to somebody who has no idea. And I had that exact experience. Like I now live in Vancouver. My son moved to Vancouver before me, but then his friends will come to visit because he's got a pool and a nice house or whatever, and they'll come to visit or whatever. And the one guy said, "Oh, I heard you're into UFOs and what's that thing with the disclosure stuff?" And I start talking, but he stops me. He says, "That's okay. You can stop talking. I lost you 3 sentences ago." Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go back to talking about who's not in the room and who's pregnant and who's in jail and all this kind of stuff that people talk
Yeah.
about.
Well, and that's the nature too of time, right? Of being in this dimension where we're on a linear kind of line of experience. It gives us time, and through cycles too. Cycles help us see where that is. It gives us time to digest and assimilate and get used to these ideas, and we do it over a lifetime.
Yeah. Well, it's
Yeah.
been a wonderful trip with you, and we've had a number of occasions. I hope your son is doing a little bit better. You're dealing with that. I appreciate the fact that you spent some time with us because you got some other things on your plate that you have to deal with. But I'm honored to have you on, and I'm sure Cindy hasn't heard all your stories, but she'll be ready to get your book because you've got some of the most interesting stories and that's maybe what it is these interesting stories are like I call it the Jesus circus. So they read your book and they go, "This is so wild," and then they really don't believe it, but that they don't realize their consciousness has arisen at the end of the book.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's the whole thing. And like I said, Grant, you've been an inspiration to me for many, many years. You were the reason, actually, that I started to open up about this. Cindy, I have to tell you, when I first met Grant, he came to speak for our group in Boulder, and we always did a kind of a private thing at the house, and he came to the house and started talking about his stuff. And there was something
What year?
about you, Grant. This was 2013.
Okay.
Yeah. And there was something about Grant that just hit me right here. and and I started opening up and telling him all of it's like my whole life story practically. I was telling him all these crazy stories, and I could not believe that I was actually telling him all this stuff. But you inspire that in people because of your own energy, because of your own ability to hold space for people, and also how you come across as a light energy that is very opening, very stimulating and opening. And that has been really an inspiration to me for many years. And so from there, I started being able to talk more about these things, even though, something I still am reluctant, but but it's been wonderful, wonderful, Grant, knowing you all these years and seeing all the incredible work that you're doing. You're doing some incredible things, and
Yeah.
I really to encourage you to continue with that. Because it's important. It's important
Yeah.
work.
It's
Yeah.
it's monumental. It's
Yeah.
yeah. And I came across Grant's information. I think it was 2021 or 2020. I don't remember. And I kept thinking, gosh, I've got to meet him. I have to meet him. I want to meet him. And how many UFO researchers or authors are out there? But for some reason, I just gravitated towards Grant. I mean, I actually feel like I've known him before.
Yeah.
Of course, we meet, and he's like, "Well, would you like to co-host with me?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh!"
Yeah, you've got the energy. That's your forte is you've got more energy than anybody I've ever met in my life.
Yeah, it's
Of
been
course, she
great
works out
meeting
three
you
hours a
too.
day, so that's kind of
Yeah.
So
Yeah, good to have.
I just moved into this new complex. I'm going to be here probably 6 to 7 months, waiting for my house to be finished building in Park City. And I talked to the management team yesterday. I said, "Hey, I'd like to be your fitness specialist. So I'm going to start teaching classes here." And then I said to them, "I would like to start a class called Metaphysic Meetup.
there you go.
I want to, I've been like broadcasting out to the universe, send me people who are my little leaders so that I can disseminate the information, help raise consciousness, and then they can go out and feed it." You know,
Good.
so
That's awesome.
I'm quite
Yeah,
excited.
that's great.
We got Salt Lake City and Boulder covered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Fantastic.
thank you so much for your time, Candace. I just
Oh,
friended
thank
you
you
on
for having
Facebook.
me. Yeah, great. Yeah, I'll respond to that. Thank you, Grant, and thank you, Cindy. It's been great being here with you guys. It's been
Beautiful.
wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank
Namaste.
you. Have a good day.
Talk to you
Thanks,
later.
you too.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
So,
Bye.
bye-bye. So, Grant, I
Bye.
will see you at 5, 4, your time.